I actually think this is going to be a meta video because what I want to actually do is talk through my current video strategy, right? And how I've been using video, and you've been seeing it on the current channel and on other platforms as well. I've basically created a multi-platform content campaign from a single day of shooting video. So just from a couple hours of shooting video, and the ironic part was I had anticipated to shoot video just the entire day. And what I was doing was I just jumped in front of the camera and was just spitballing stuff, just like I'm doing right now, just spitballing. And I feel like this strategy, just to side note a little bit, this strategy works extremely well if you've got a great video personality, and not just you, but if someone at your organization is really comfortable on camera, you have a really good video culture where you are encourage people to just get out there and post and get in front of camera and talk. If you're cool with someone just riffing without having a script, if you've got a really charismatic subject matter expert within your building, or a charismatic salesman within your building, a strategy like this would be great, right? If you're trying to launch a YouTube channel, a very similar this strategy would also be great if you are producing a YouTube channel. If you're planning on producing a podcast, this would be an awesome strategy for you. If brand documentaries and documentary storytelling is part of your marketing plan, this is also a tremendous value to you. And what I'm talking about is the chunking strategy. I'm calling it the chunking strategy. I don't really know what it's called. I feel like it's a more modern approach to video production and to content production in general, but I can't possibly be the only person who has figured this out. I'm not that smart, and I don't believe in originality, and I don't think I'm that original. I'm the type of guy where when I think I have an original thought, I'll Google it only to find out that that thing not only exists, but you can buy it, right? So I could never change the world with an invention. It's just not what I do. But but I feel like I'm talented in strategy and in processes and in creating efficient workflows. And so I wanted to share with you my current workflow. So what it does is it flips video production. It flips the script on video production, right? And it flips conventional approach to video production on its head. So usually when you're approaching video production, right, producing video, especially for a marketing organization, video is usually the last thing on your list. It's the last thing you're going to do after you have all your other pieces and all your other building blocks in place. Then you're going to do video. And from that perspective, it totally makes sense because video conventionally is a luxury piece of content. It's expensive. It takes a long time to create. You have to really make sure that you've got your messaging right, and you usually are getting a single piece of content. And because you're getting a single piece of content, it's basically the Hollywood approach to content creation, or excuse me, the Hollywood approach to movie making, right? It big budget, single piece of content. You really need that content to deliver because it's a single piece of content, right? So that thing really has to do what it's supposed to do for you. Otherwise, it's a huge waste. So it's very risky. And because it's very risky, there's a lot of fear associated with it. And the downside to having fear associated with any sort of decision making is you tend to make bad decisions when you're afraid, right? So there's a lot of pressure, right? And you just end up kind of nitpicking the thing to death, you know? And it's slow. It's laborious. And from that perspective, yes, video production is totally a luxury content format. However, I feel like thinking about video production from that perspective really inhibits the potential value you can create for your marketing efforts. Because I want to challenge you to think of video not as the final step in the ladder, not as the final brick in the wall that you're laying, but think of video as a giant pile of bricks that once you create that, make video the first thing that you do. And out of video, you can chunk out all your other pieces of content. So the way that I've been training myself to think of video recently is I see it as a daggum gold mine. It is a content gold mine, just rich of material, raw material that you can then chunk out across across all of your different platforms, right? And you can give yourself, with just a couple videos, you can give yourself daily content posts for months, okay? And I'm not just guessing here. I originally, when this idea first came to me, hold on, making sure I'm still recording. All right, I got to double check to make sure I'm still recording. I'm sorry, guys, because I haven't set up the camera like this before, and I don't want to keep it on because I'm just going to look at myself. So I want to make sure that I can see. There, good. All right, I'm just going to dip it down so I can quick check next time. Where was I at? This whole idea was originally theory for me. I could see the potential of it, but I had not actually put it into practice, so I didn't realize how totally awesome it is. And it is totally awesome. So I've been making documentary style videos since 2011, right? So that's near a whole decade of making those types of videos. I mean, I've been making videos since high school. So, I mean, I've been making videos for like over 15 years. But no, 15, 20 years. Dadgum. Anyways, been making videos for a while. Documentary videos primarily for almost a decade. And what I've noticed throughout that entire process is just the sheer amount of content that rots on our hard drives, right? So and I did the math. It will usually take me about 8-ish hours of footage to make a 4.5-minute documentary story, okay? The math comes out to 480 minutes for a 4.5-minute product, right? Which, on one hand, awesome, because you know that product ends up being the best of the best of the best of the best, right? What they see is like what your audience ends up seeing is like the tip of this gigantic iceberg, but that tip is like solid gold, right? Well, we hope it's solid gold. It's solid gold, okay? But that's like over 90% of the material needed to be created that never sees the light of day. And that is like such a waste. It's such a complete waste. So I had this idea of, well, why don't we just use all of that content and chunk it out and continue to repurpose it? And I had several projects having worked on an internal marketing team for the past 2 years. You really start to learn how to do more with less. And so that's when I first started getting a taste for how valuable this production strategy is, how valuable it is to be able to just film a few base videos. And then out of those few base videos, you can recombine them and repurpose them into completely different messaging products, right? And really, it's treating video, this whole strategy treats video as its ultimate essence, right? Which is a video is really just a collection of a bunch of images and audio files. And that's it, right? It's a bunch of frames that are shown in quick succession, right? So the motion you're seeing right now is not real, right? It's just a frame, right? Which is just a boatload of photos, right? And then you've got my audio file as well, right? So I put this into practice recently because I wanted to give myself a challenge of, could I shoot a core number of videos and post a bunch of content extremely efficiently, right? With little wasted time and maximum reward for the amount of effort that you're putting in, right? So what I did is I set up the camera and I decided to film the Blackboard series first, and I just spitballed. I just went through and I recorded 7 videos back to back. And it was simple because I just had a core single idea that I wanted to focus on. And then I just ran with that idea. And this worked well because of my personality. I'm good on camera, and I can more easily just roll with things. I tried recording a bunch of videos where I would spitball the script into my phone and record it into the phone on my commute, and then when I would get back, I would load those videos up into a transcription service, then grab the transcription service, then type out an outline with the key points, then review the outline, then set up the camera, then record trying to hit the outline. And I realized it was just totally backwards. That whole workflow was completely backwards, because why couldn't I just riff on camera and throw out all the unnecessary transcription, rewriting, and then re-recording again? Because what I realized is when I took the video file back into my computer, I was basically editing it anyways. Like, video editing. But what I mean is, like, I would edit the video as if it was within a word processor. I'm just making quick cuts and just rearranging sentences and taking the end and making at the beginning, like whatever. I'm just molding it so that way it does what I need it to do, right? And I realized that it was totally unnecessary to have that entire front end of that process. I could just riff short ideas that they didn't have to be complicated. They didn't have to be complex. Riff these short ideas, and then I've got really quick short videos that I can throw up on LinkedIn. So that's what I did. So I riffed a bunch of really short videos and then threw them up on LinkedIn. But what I did was I knew I was going to chunk all of this stuff out. So I started a rotation process. I first laid out all of the video segments out on their respective timelines, created new timelines for each of them, and did just a rough cut of all of them, all in the same day that I recorded them. So I recorded them in half the day. The second half of the day, I did just a really rough edit of all the videos, and then I had all of them basically on deck, ready and waiting for when I need them. So the other thing that I feel like I'm going to get too far into it and skip a core piece of what makes this whole strategy effective is recent advances in video technology, right? This whole strategy is made so much simpler with the addition of 4K video, as well as the anamorphic mode that has just started becoming popular on cameras recently. Now, why the anamorphic mode is awesome, basically, it's called anamorphic for filmmakers, right? Filmmakers will use anamorphic lenses that squeeze the image, okay? And what you're doing is you're filming on a larger area of your sensor. You get wider widescreen. That's what you do in those really cool lens flares, all right? There's no wider stuff. Basically, it's multi-aspect ratio filming, okay? That is what the new technology does. That's what anamorphic does. So I'm not going to rent those anamorphic lenses and film with them. I mean, I might someday, but that's not why I'm excited about it. Why I'm excited about it is because now you can record video on the full surface area of your sensor. You're now allowed the height of the top and bottom, which is ideal when you want to actually chunk that out, because now your frames aren't all just widescreen. You can actually have photos that are more like the aspect ratio of actual photos that you would expect to come directly out of your camera when you're shooting photos. You're not limited to just widescreen images. That's why it's totally awesome. So those two advances in technology have really made this strategy the smart option and the sort of like no duh option. Okay, so back to implementing the strategy so you get an understanding for how cool this is. Okay, so I recorded all the videos, edited the first one, and then once you edit the first one, now I've got a template for all the other videos afterwards. I took time. The first video took the most time because in the first video I'm defining the style and figuring out what assets I'm going to use. And once you have all of that stuff, and coloring it too, and processing the audio and everything. But once you have all that stuff, you're pretty much just copy and pasting that to all the other subsequent timelines that I'm working with. Okay. And because I shot in 4:3, right? Now, the reason I shot in 4:3, so I kind of touched on this, but didn't really explain it. The reason I shoot in 4:3 is because it crops a heck of a lot better between a square aspect ratio and a widescreen aspect ratio. It sits perfectly in the middle of those two formats. So if you're only shooting in the widescreen and you try to crop that down to a square format, it looks funky because the composition doesn't translate, because you're taking away too much space that if you're composing for a widescreen, it just looks silly. It looks like you're cropping a widescreen photo to fit a square format, okay? That's the beauty of 4:3. 4:3 aspect ratio actually sits right in the middle of the two, allowing the crop to look more natural when you go between square and widescreen. You kind of like are aiming for the middle, right? Which gives your footage more flexibility. It gives your content legs, right? Because now you can more easily adapt your footage for square formats when you're putting them on the scrolling social platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And then you're still maintaining the widescreen formats, so you still have versions for your video marketing platform and YouTube, okay? So once I edited the video, just quick edit and everything, made it look nice, posted, oh, hey Luna, my cat's down there. So once I edited the video, posted it up on LinkedIn in a square format, okay, duplicated the sequence, and then reformatted it for YouTube. Now I've got a YouTube version that I posted on YouTube, okay? And when I posted it on YouTube, I got the captions from it, all right? So I've got the captions, copy paste those captions over, so I export that out. That's the SRT file that I also uploaded up to LinkedIn. But those captions then become the basis of a blog post that I write about that video. So then I write up a blog post, but it would take me a little longer to write up the blog post. So like I said, I created a rotating content schedule. So the blog post I would post the week after. And then what I would do is from that video, now I've got this script that I just sort of riffed. It was about a 2-minute video. I've got at least 2 good quotes out of that video that I can then repost, right? So I created a quote and posted that, and then I created a secondary quote design and then posted that. So now I've got this system where I've got the video on the Monday, video quote posted on the Tuesday, and then another video quote posted on like Thursday or Friday. So that was about the first week that I started going through this. And when the second week hit, I posted video number 2, right? Quote for video number 2. But then I've posted the blog number 1 for video number 1. Now, when I started writing these blogs, I realized that the blogs became their own sort of content piece. What happened is I was basically using the video script as more of an outline rather than a just copy paste over, because I realized that, wait, I can go into more detail in here on the blog. So I would do that, and just expand on these ideas that I would briefly touch on in the video. Well, because of the expansion, now I've got more stuff, and it's now unique to the video itself. So now I've got more quote options to post on. So those also become quote posts. But then the cool thing too is that I made one carousel, and the engagement that I got from the carousel that I posted on LinkedIn was just insane compared to the engagement I was getting from videos and from just image posts. So I was like, so that just convinced me right there. It was getting 40% engagement. Okay. And the others would get like, and I mean like 40% engagement from like over 200 impressions. So from over 200 impressions, about 100 people would click through it, which is crazy because I was getting like at that moment, and it was like after a week. And after a week of a video, I was probably getting 40 or 50 views, and of a post, I was getting about 30 or something. So I was like, whoa, carousels are where they're at. Let's do carousels. So then I realized that the video and the blog themselves offer potential content. It's a potential content source for a carousel to make as well. So then you've got this churning. So basically it's this alternate thing that's happening. So it starts on week 1, but then it starts alternating where the blog for the week 1 video is going into week 2, and then you start the next video on week 2. From 7 videos, that carried me through 7 weeks. I'm not even finished through all 7 weeks just yet, because I had to talk about this because I think it's like totally awesome. It gave me daily content to post for 8 full weeks from just a single afternoon of filming 8 short videos, right? Now, I'm still testing, okay? And I'm not sure if I'm not sure if I got enough content in those videos, which is why I'm now trying up a new setup, trying up a new format, trying to give you just more value basically and more information, because those videos were nice for a quick, just like a quick hit of, oh, cool marketing stuff. But I actually wanted to talk more tactical and share more, so that way, just testing things out, seeing how this goes, if this actually gets more traction. What I started realizing too is like the more I'm posting, how the brand voice becomes self-defined, and I was able to just start to create this almost personality to the brand. But what I realized when I took a step back after doing that for almost 2 months, I started to realize that, you know what, maybe this isn't actually the tone or the voice that my audience really needs. That the audience that I'm trying to reach, maybe they're not exactly jiving with this sort of like punk rock, punkish, like design aesthetic that I've gone with. Now, the reason I went with that aesthetic is because I suck at Photoshop. I'm a videographer, right? I tell stories. I suck at Photoshop. So it was the sort of, it was a cheat to where it looked professional, because it looked like I was emulating a style, but really I was emulating a style that did not require me to be really great at Photoshop, right? I could just use the polygon like pen tool and just click around and have these like this horrible masking job. But it was fine because that's what I was capable of doing. But I realized that isn't exactly the style that I wanted to go to, but I didn't know how it would look until I was able to look at it, right? But because I was putting out content really quickly, I also didn't spend a lot of time overthinking and overanalyzing, because I'm able to move faster now because everything's in motion and because I'm taking those steps, right? I'm not paralyzed by over planning and overthinking, which is what a conventional approach to this would have done. And had I been investing all that thought and all that energy into it, I would have been pissed if it didn't work, because it would have been exhausting. and probably really super let down instead of just understanding, oh, well, that didn't work, so let's try something else. So this is the chunking strategy, okay? And so like I want to give you an kind of rehash that. Basically what you're doing is you're treating video as a source of raw material to then chunk out across multiple platforms. The thing I didn't mention is I wasn't just doing this on LinkedIn. I was doing this campaign across Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I kind of slacked off a little on YouTube, so I need to get back into reformatting the videos so I can post them back up. But I was able to post across 3 different platforms for 2 full months straight, all from a single afternoon of shooting video. Now, it becomes even more interesting when you apply it to documentary filmmaking because, like I said, you've got this overabundance of footage, and it's a very similar thing of like you've got all these interviews. So what you can do is, because usually I'm shooting like my interviews are lasting anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. That is an hour-long transcript that can, and if I'm doing a customer testimonial story, right, that transcript can now become a written case study. And because the interview is so long, you can actually just chunk out certain quotes from that interview and embed them in wherever you place that case study at. So if you're putting that case study on your blog or on your website, on a specific page on your website, you can embed those videos in. So as you're reading, you've got a video quote that you can then watch. You basically have a really sweet headshot of the person. So you can take that still frame. If you shoot at a little bit higher shutter speed, if you break that 180-degree rule a little bit, you reduce the amount of motion blur, right? So now you've got a little bit of more of a crisper frame that's ideal for posting photos, right? And then you can just post that screenshot with their quote. Now you've got a really nice social post, okay? This is the potential. And you can just recombine it, and it now starts treating video as a first resource rather than a last luxury resource. It's almost becomes a necessity to getting out content at scale rather than it would be cool if, but we can't, you know? So I want to encourage you to flip the script on video and do a video first production strategy, because it's what I'm going to be doing from now on. I feel like it's the way that video ought to be made. It solves so many issues with normal video production, and it's a way for if you've got a really strong video culture in your organization, it's the way that you're going to dominate the content game. So good luck. Let me know how that works out for you, and I would love to see examples of how you're actually implementing this, because I hope that it brings value, and I would just love to see the results. All right, take care.